So guys, welcome back to DB. So in this video, we will be building a form validation in JavaScript without using any framework or library, so that when a user type a wrong thing in their input field, they should get a nice error message. And if you are first time on this channel, so please make sure to subscribe so you can get more videos just like this. So without wasting our time, let's get started. So before we start creating our project, let's see how a project will look like so we can understand our code better while coding. So this is our container. In this container, we have one form, and in this form, we have 4 inputs, which is username, email, password and confirm password. So now let's check it step by step. If I hit directly submit, now you can see that we got 4 errors, that username cannot be blank, email cannot be blank, password cannot be blank and confirm password cannot be blank. And this is what we want. Now let's move on to username, start with username. So if I here enter my Instagram ID, which is Garg.ui, and if I hit submit, you can see our error is removed and we got a nice green border. So this is working fine. Now let's move on to email. In this email, if I enter directly XYZ and if I hit submit, you can see we get another error that please include adder rate in this email address. So this error was not implemented by our JavaScript. This was implemented by Web API. Now let's move on. Now here if I can enter @Gmail, and again if I hit submit, you can see we get another error that not a valid email, which is true, right? Because we not added .com or .in. Now if I enter .in and if I enter submit, you can see our error is removed because this is a correct email. Now let's move on to password. In this password, if I enter 1234 and if I enter submit, you can see we get another error that password length should be between 6 and 30 because we want strong password, right? Now if I enter more than 30 characters, for example this, blah blah blah, and if I hit submit, you can see we got same error that password length should be between 6 and 30 because now our password length is more than 30. Finally enter correct one. So I will enter 1234 ABCD. You can enter any password you want, and if I enter submit, you can see our error is removed and we got again a green border. Now let's move on to confirm password, which is our last. Now in this password, if I entered 1234, not for example 6543, and if I hit submit, you can see we get another error that password does not match, which is true because our password is different and confirm password is different and we want same password, right? So now let's enter same password, which is 1234 ABCD, and if I enter submit, you can see our error is removed. So this is working fine. So this is what we are building today. So this video is divided into 2 parts, which is HTML and CSS part and second is JavaScript part. So if you want to see just JavaScript part, you can jump to it. I will provide timestamp in this your screen or in the description below, so you can jump or skip to that part. So now let's start coding. Now to get started, first we have to create an index.html file. So let's create an index.html file. Index.html. After creating index.html file, we have to type a basic HTML. So just type an exclamation mark, then enter. This will generate a boilerplate, a basic HTML. Now let's open this file. I'm using extension called live server. So just right click and open with live server. Just couple of more seconds, just copy it and paste. I'm using incognito mode, so no extension can disturb us, right? So this is our document. Now let's first change our title. I will give a title of client form. You can give any title you want. Now let's move on to body. In this body, I want to add in class of .container. So I can say .container. So here's a div with class of container. In this class, I want to add in header. So I can say header. In this header, I want to add in heading. So I can say h1 tag. In this heading, I want to add a create account. You can give any heading you want. And now I want to add in form, which is our main part. So form. Now I want to remove this action attribute as we are not sending this our form to any web server, right? But I want to add in class of form, so we can style this form in CSS. Now let's add in class of form control. So simply type form slash control, not from, this is form control. After adding this class, we will add three elements in this class. First is label, input, and our error message. So first we have to type label. We will get label for username. As you know, first is our username in demo. Username. Now let's add an input. Input, type text. I want to add input for name, username, and I want to give an ID of username, add a small tag. In this small tag, I want to add an error message. Now we will remove this error message by JavaScript and add an error message dynamically by JavaScript. And I added small tag. As you know, errors are generally small in size, right? So now our one form control is ready. So now we have 4 inputs, right? So we can simply copy this form control class and paste it 3 more times because we have 4 inputs, right? So 1, 2, and this 4, right? Now you can see we have 4 inputs. Now let's change the value username as a message. So username is correct. Now let's jump to second. Now second one will be email. Again email, and input type will not be text, it will be also email. Name also email. Now you can give any ID you want. Email. Our email block is ready. Now just jump to third block. Now this will be your password. So password. Input type will be also password, and name and username will be also password, right? Now last block is our confirm password. So let's add a confirm password, right? Now change the text to password, username to C password, and also for C. Now let's change ID. I will give ID of also C password. Now our form is ready. Now we have to add a button to submit the form. So let's add in button of text submit. Now let's add in type of also submit, right? Now I think our HTML is ready. Yeah, our HTML is now ready. Now let's move on to CSS to style this document. Now let's first add a reset. So just type asterisk, then box sizing, border box, now margin 0, and then padding 0. Now let's style body. So body, I want to add a background color of dodger blue. I want to add a height. So height I want to add of 100 BH. Let's say min height. And now I want to center this content. So I can say display flex and justify content center, align item center. Now you can see our content is in center. Now let's add the font family. So font family is Arial. Let's do Arial. I hate font. Yeah. Now our body is ready. Now let's style our container. I want to add a background color of white. Yeah. Now let's add a border radius of 5 px. Now let's style header. I think we should add a width also to it of 400 px. Yeah. So in this header, I want to add a background color of hash F0 F0 F0. This is hex code. Yeah, and let's add a padding because it is so congested. So I want to add a padding of 20 px and 40 px. You can add any padding you want. And now a margin bottom of 20 px. Good. Now let's style our form. So we can say dot form. As you know, we added a form class to our form. So what we want is, I want to add a padding of 30 px and 40 px, right? Now let's move on to form control. In this form control, I want display flex, and I want to add a flex direction of column. Now you can see this is line by line. Now what I want to add a padding, we can say margin, as it is consisted of 30 px, or we can say 25 px. Yeah, this is fine. Now let's add a margin to label. So I can say margin bottom of 5 px. Good. Now let's style input. Let's add a padding of 10 px. I added padding. Now let's remove outline. I hate outline. What's the problem? Oh, spelling. Now I want to change the border. So I can simply say 1 px solid gains block. Fine. Now what I want is, I want to style small, which is our error message. I want to give a color of, I cannot remember color names, E75C3C. Yeah, this is fine. And what I want is, I want a margin of top of 5 px, and I want to hide this message. I want to show this message when this form control has an error class. We will add by JavaScript. So currently I will set this visibility to hidden, as we don't want to show this message unnecessary, right? Now you can see our message is removed. Now let's style our button. Let's add a background color to a button. Let's say Dodger blue. So it will be a combination. Let's add a color white, and let's remove outline. Again, I hate outline. Border none. Yeah, and this is looking like a small child. So let's add a width of 100%. Now let's add a padding of 10 px. Now good. Now I want to add a cursor also. As you can see, when I hover over it, it is showing this simple cursor. So I can say cursor of pointer. Good. Now let's add a hover transition of background color blue. So now if I hover over it, the color will change. You can see. Now let's add a transition to give a smooth effect. Transition background color of 0.3s. Yeah, this is looking nice. Now what I want is, as you know, in demo I show you when there was some error, our input border was changed red, but when there was no error, our input color was in green color, right? To implement that functionality, what we can do is, when a JavaScript add any error class or success class to this form control, we want to style input and small, right? So let's do this. Let's go to style, and I want to style for form. When form control has dot error class, then I want to style small. What I want is, I want to show visibility to visible. Now what will happen is, if JavaScript will add a class to form control of error, then our error message will show. Now for example, if I add here error, I'm adding a class of error. Now you can see our error message will show, right? This is working. Now let's remove it. And what we want is, let's try input border, right? So same like above, form control. When form control has an error, I want to type input, and what I want to do is I want to change the color to ECC. What a complicated hex code. And what I want is, when form control has a class of success, and then I want to add a border color of, oh, I replaced, what I did is I changed border color of error to green, but error border should be red. Now correct. Now let's check it. Now if I add, for example, here to password an error class, now you will see a border of color red. But if I add class of success, spelling mistake, you will see a green color border, right? So this is what we want. So our CSS is also ready, our HTML is also ready. Now we will jump to our main and fun part, which is JavaScript. So let's get started. So now let's start working on JavaScript. To start working on JavaScript, first we have to create our JavaScript file with the name of script.js and name we want. Now our JavaScript file is created. Let's close this CSS file. Now we have to link this JavaScript file in this HTML file. So we can say script src is equal to name of our file, location, script.js, and after this we have to add a defer attribute. Why defer attribute? Because we want to execute the script after our HTML content is loaded, right? So now just jump to our JavaScript file and let's start playing. So first we want is DOM elements. So we can say DOM elements. I'm adding comments, you can understand better. So first we want is let form. So you can say document dot query selector, and our class, not class, I will use tag. And second we want is username. As you know, we have 4 inputs, so we will get 4 DOM elements more. So we can say username document dot query selector, and our ID of username, as you know, is username. I want to show you what is our ID. As you can see, our ID is username. That's why I use here ID username. Now same thing 4 more times. So I will just copy. 3 more times. And here let's change the name. Here second is our email, and our ID is also email. And now fourth is password, and our here also is password. And last, our DOM element is confirm password, and it has ID of C password, short form of confirm password, right? So now our DOM elements is ready. Now let's add an event listener to our form. So we want to add event listener. Let's add a comment so we can understand more. Event listener for form submit. So here let's remove this extra space. Form dot add event listener, we want to listen for submit, and we want to call an arrow function with the parameter of e. In here I want to show you something, wait a minute, that for example if I enter something, for example hello, right, and if I hit submit, now you will see that our data is lost and page was reloaded, right? But we don't want this functionality. To remove this functionality, what we can do is we can say e.p24, because this is default functionality of JavaScript. So now if I enter something, for example same text, and if I hit submit, now you will see our data is not lost and our page was not reloaded. So this is working fine, right? Now we want to call a function with the name of handle input. We have not created this function yet, but we will create it after some seconds. So now let's create it. Function handle input. I created this function. Now let's do a checking here that if the function is working or not. As checking is very important in JavaScript. So let's check it. If I hit submit, you can see we are getting alert working. Now let's remove it. Now what we want is we want values from this all four inputs. This username email does not have value but DOM element, but we want value from it. So we can say values from DOM elements input, right? So first is username. So again username, not username same variable but username value. So we can understand what is here, and we want user name dot value, right? We want dot value, not node value but value, and we want to trim it. So basically here we are getting value from username and we are trimming it as because we don't want extra spaces. Now same thing 3 more times, right? So now we want as you know that we want for email, and this for email, right? And now this for password third, password, and this for confirm password. Let's copy paste. So now we got all values from our all inputs here. Now we want to do our main part, which is checking for inputs. So now let's start checking for username, and in here I want to check if, so basically we will using here if else, if user name value is equal to nothing, if username value is equal to nothing, means 0, so then I want to call a function which is name of set. Why this spelling mistake happened with me? Set error 4, and we want to call this function basically. If username value is nothing, then we want to call this function and we want to pass two parameters here. First will be username. We are not passing username value, but we are passing this username DOM element. And second parameter is our message. What message we want to pass? Our message here is that user name cannot be blank. Perfect. So we will create this set error from function after a couple seconds. So don't worry. If this condition is not true, then of course we want set success for username, right? So now let's create a function of set error 4 and set success 4. Let's go to bottom. In this function, we are getting two elements, two parameters, that input and second is message, right? In this function, first thing we want is form control. But why form control? I already show you that if I add, for example, here add a class, now you will see something here. You will see that we are getting red border and an error message. So we can do this thing by JavaScript also, that we can add array class by JavaScript in this function, right? And you will notice also one thing, that this input has a parent element. And what is parent element is here? Not form but form control. So the parent element of input is form control, right? So what we can do is we can say let form control is equal to input dot parent element. Right? Now we got form control. What we want to do with form control? we want to replace a class, to add a class. So we can say form control dot class name is equal to form control error. You will notice that this same class is also tested here, right? Here. So basically we are replacing this form control class with this class. Okay. Now what we want is we want to also set message. As you know, in this our input we have already set it a dummy error message, but we want to set a dynamic message. So for that we can say let small. As you know, small tag has error message. So let small is equal to form control. Again form control because form control has small tag. So we are saying that form control query selector, if this has query selector with the name of small. Now what we want to do with small is we want to set an inner text to small, inner text to message, right? So now let's check it and let's test it. So if I enter, for example, nothing here in username, I am talking about username. And if I hit submit, now you will see that username cannot be a blank. We are showing this error, right? But we are not showing error message error, dummy error, right? So this is working fine. But for example, if I enter a valid username, for example, my name, and if I hit submit, now you will see that error is not removed because we have not declared set successful function. So now let's do this. Let's say set function set successful, just like above, and in this we want just input not message, and what we want is same form control, so we can copy paste, right? So let's say copy paste form control, and we want this time to set class to form control. Class name is equal to form control. This time not error like here, but success, right? So now our function is ready. Both sets error for, that's what successful. Now let's check it. Now if I enter, for example, Garg, again my name, and if I hit submit, now you will see we are getting a green border. So now this is working fine, right? But if I remove this and if I hit submit, now you will see username cannot be blank. So now our checking for username is completed. Now let's do checking for our email. So let's go for checking for email, right? And you will also notice that we are not repeating a block of code because we already declared a set error for function and set successful function, and we will use this function for all these three elements more, right? So let's say if now we are doing checking for email. So let's say if email is equal to nothing, then I want to set again this copy error for this time not username but email. That email cannot be blank, right? As what I want to do is same thing with username. I want to just say set successful, call set successful, and pass email. Now let's check it. Let's add a dummy text in email. If I enter, for example, my ID, which is devdeal3788@gmail.com, and if I hit enter, now you will see we are getting green border because this is correct. But if I remove this and now if I hit submit, now you will see that we are not getting error. But why? Because I did a mistake. What mistake? That I checked for email, but I should check for email value, right? So now if I enter again my name, and in this email let's add again my email ID, let's say 37@gmail.com, again and submit. It is working, but if I remove this, you will see email cannot be blank. So this is working fine. So now let's do one more checking for this email, that to check if the email is valid or not. For example, if I enter .@array gmail and if I click submit, now you will see that it is showing this email is correct, but we know that this email is incorrect, not a valid. So to check this, we can do is we can say else if not is email. Now here dot is email is a function we will make after a couple of seconds. Now in this function we want to pass email value that we already declared here, right? You can see here. And I use not operator because if is email function returned as false, then we want to do something, right? What we want to do is we want to set error again for email, but our this time message will be different. What our message will be that our email cannot be blank, right? So this is an error, but we have not created our is email function. So let's create it. Function is email, and we want the parameter with an email, right? Now in this function we have two options to return true or false, boolean, true and false. If email is correct then true, if email is false then false, right? So here what we can do is we can use regular expression. So let's go to our godfather of programmers, which is Stack Overflow. Just see that this is the function for validate of email. Just copy it. I'm copying because this is little bit harder to explain how regular expression works. So that's why I just copy and paste. I will try my best. So for example, here's we declared an RE variable, and in this variable we have some regular expression. And this expression, then we want to return if .re.match.test with string email to lowercase. If this regular expression is tested with this email we got, then we want to return true. If this return false, then we want to call this set error for function, right? So now let's check it. For example, if I enter same thing, which is .@gmail.com, and now if I hit submit, now you will see that we got an error that email cannot be blank, but we should get an error that email is not valid. So we can say here email is not valid, right? .gmail.com. If I hit submit, you will see that we are getting another error that email is not valid. We were not getting this error before, right? So this is working fine. So our checking for email is now done. So now let's do checking for our password and confirm password. So let's say checking for password. So we want to say same if. Let's copy it again. If password value is equal to nothing, then we want to call set error for function, and we want to pass this time password, not username, and we want to say that password cannot be blank, right? As we want to set successful password. Now let's check it. For example, I enter again, and if I here enter submit, now you will see that we are getting an error that password cannot be blank, which is fine. But if I enter something, for example, blah blah blah, and if I hit submit now we can see our error is removed. Now I want to do one more checking to check if the password length is less than 6 or below than 30. For example, if I enter 123 and if I now hit submit, you will see it is showing that password is correct, but this password should not be correct because this is not a strong password. This is very weak password, and this password can be hacked, right? So what we can do is we can say same like else if above with email. We can say as if password value dot length is less than 6 or password value dot length is greater than 30. So if this condition is true, then we want to call a function which is again set error for function, and again we want to pass password, but our message will be different, that password length should be between 6 and 30, right? So now let's check it. For example, I added dummy text here, email ID, and now if I enter here ABD, and now if I hit submit, now you can see we are getting an error that password length should be between 6 and 30, which is fine. And now if I enter more than 30 characters, for example blah blah blah, and now if I hit submit, you will see we are getting this error again. But if I enter, for example, ABCD1234, now if I hit submit, you will see our error is removed because our password is between 6 and 30, right? So now our checking for password is completed. Now last is our confirm password. So now let's do checking for confirm password. What we want to check is, we want to check same thing, that if confirm password value, it is confirm password value, yeah, if confirm password value is equal to nothing, then I want to pass confirm password, and I want to see that confirm password, not confirm password cannot be blank, right? Now here I don't want to check full length because I already checked it in password. Let's do set success for confirm. Yeah, but we want to check if this password value and confirm password value is same or not. Yeah, so we can do is we can say else if confirm password value is not, it means not equal to password value. So here if confirm password value is not equal to password value, then again we want to call a function. And which function? You are very smart, as you know that we want to call set error for function, and we want to pass same confirm password DOM element, but this time our message is different. Our message will be the confirm password not matched, y capital letters, Dave, not matched with above password, right? Let's do it also small. So now let's do checking. For example, if I enter my Instagram ID, which you can follow, Garg.ui, and here I enter, for example, email, dummy email, and again here password 1234 ABCD. But if in confirm password I entered, for example, HGBCDEGF blah blah blah, right? And now if I hit submit, now you will see we are getting another error that confirm password not matched with our password, which is true. Our password is different, our confirm password is different, but our password should be matched, right? So now if I enter, for example, same password here, I think so our password was 1234 ABCD. If I hit submit, you can see our error is removed because our password value and confirm password value is same. So now our form validation project is finally completed. Alright guys, so that's it for making form validation in JavaScript. If you enjoyed this video, so please give me a like, subscribe and comment, and course link will be in the description below. That's it, thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.